This is compound interest. It looks like the accumulated, it looks like the increasing or appreciation formula, but it has CPs. Now, CPs are compounding periods. Everyone paying attention so that you understand why we use this. Okay, what is a compounding period? Well, if something was compounding monthly, everyone paying attention? So say I have $1,000 and I put it into the bank and it compounds monthly. Well, what the heck is compounding? Well, if I have an annual interest rate of 12%, let's say that's what it is, okay? And I compound monthly, what is my interest rate per month then? 1. Do we agree? You will always get annual interest rates. So that's why we have to do the I divided by compounding periods, because it's by what the percent is going to be per compounding period. So if it compounds semi-annually, that's twice a year. So if I had maybe 12%, but it compounded semi-annually, which is twice a year, how much would my interest rate be per period? 6, because I would just take 12 divided by 2. Do you agree? No. So we take the interest rate and divide it by the compounding periods because it's how much interest I would get per compounding period. Okay? And then n, I times by compounding periods because n is the number of years. Okay? So if it compounds semi-annually, how many times is that a year? Twice. So I would go 2n. We agree? Like n times 2? So if it was in for 4 years, it would compound 4 times. Or sorry, if it was in for 4 years, it would compound 8 times because it's 2 times a year. Now, what in the heck actually is compounding? Okay. So if something compounds monthly, that means, say I invest $1,000 and it compounds monthly. At the end of the month, it takes the interest that you made that month and it puts it in with the principal, with the amount of money you invested. So, for example, if this month I put in $1,000 and I made $5 in interest, now at the end of that month, because I compound it, I have $1,005. Do we agree? I had $1,000. I made $5 in interest. In that first month, I now have $1,005 in my bank account. Correct? Paying attention? So the next month, I now am making interest off of $1,005, not $1,000. Because it takes the money I make and it rolls it in with my money and I go into the next month. So say the next month I now make $6 because I've invested more. I won't make that much, but let's say I do. Now I have $1,011 going into the third month. So now the third month I'm making interest off $1,011, not the $1,000 I put in. So every single time it compounds, it takes the interest you made and rolls it in with what money was sitting in the bank account at the beginning of that compounding period. And so the next month you're making interest off the interest. So you're making more money faster because you're making interest off the interest that you're earning. Compound interest compounds, so you get to make more money faster, right? Because you're actually making interest off your interest. Simple interest, it doesn't matter what you actually make money off of. Every month, if you invest $1,000, every month you will only make money off $1,000. You don't make interest off your interest. So that's simple interest. So, mortgages. Mortgages are compound loans. So what do? At the end of this, and they only can compound semi-annually, so twice a year. So at the end of the 6 months, they charge you interest on all the money you still owe. So the more you compound in a year, the faster money you'll make. So if you're taking out money, like a mortgage, you want it to compound less, because they're going to make interest off the interest, right? And more money quickly. An example for you, just so you know, with the mortgage rates the way they are right now, a $200,000 house in town, or townhouse, or whatever you can even get for $200,000 right now with nothing. When I moved here in 2006, I owned a condo that was, or a townhouse downtown, that was $206,000. I made a $5,000 down payment, so I had $201,000. Okay? My interest rate was at 5.65, which is actually very similar to the interest rate right now. The interest rates are kind of crazy. You think 5.65, that's nothing. Well, I actually was paying $1,700 a month, $1,600 and something a month for my mortgage then. Because we were on just a 2% loan in our last mortgage, we had a loan for it was just over $400,000, and I was paying, we paid $1,700 a month. So a little bit of interest where it sounds like, oh, 2.11% to 5.6, that's nothing. It's huge. It doubles your payment. And by the time you're done paying off your 25-year mortgage, your $200,000 house you bought, you actually paid $400,000. When you're at a 5-point-something% interest rate for 25 years, you basically double what your mortgage is at the end of the 25 years because it compounds. So it's making interest off the interest that it's charging you, right? So it's a big deal. That's why they don't want you to pay off a mortgage faster. There's always rules on your mortgages too. You can only pay X number of dollars on your mortgage. You can't get out of it early, all these things. Because they don't want you to get out of it early. They want that interest to build and then to make money off it, right? So a 5-point-some mortgage, which we're sitting at right now, think about this. This is what you guys don't actually understand, and I didn't when I first came out and bought a house. You buy a house for 25 years, even if you lock in a mortgage rate, it's often for 5. 5 of the 25. So your 5 years comes back up. Say you bought your house 5 years ago, which a lot of people did. Paying attention. 5 years ago, a lot of people bought a house, and you want to know this because if your parents bought a house 5 years ago, you want to know this. They bought a house 5 years ago. The interest rates were somewhere in like the high 1s and low 2s. Their interest rate's probably up this year, next year, or the year after. Which means their interest rate will get locked in at 5-point-something%. Which means a $1,700 mortgage right now that they're paying on might be $3,500, which is $1,700 more. So there's parents right now who are having to short in a lot of ways because their mortgages are coming up, and they didn't expect that in 5 years their mortgage was going to be double what it was, right? So you have to be understanding if your parents are in that boat, because a lot of people are. And they're suspicious, they worry actually, that in like 2 to 3 years, a whole bunch of people are going to be selling off their houses because they won't be able to afford the mortgage rate. That's double what they have, because they have just what they have. So you have to watch yourself with mortgages too, because you lock in for 5, but you still have 20 more years left to pay on it. So at the end of the 5, you're like, please let the mortgage rate be lower. Please let the mortgage rate be lower. I need it to be lower. Please be lower. That's what you're like doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I normally just use cash for housing.
Yes, that really works out well. Yeah, I just take my money. I just roll my dollar bills, and I pay for my house. What is that? I don't even know. In Okotoks, a suitcase of 100 isn't buying you a house.
How big the suitcases?
Really large suitcase. Maybe. I think you get a bigger suitcase for all my dollar bills, yo. Obviously. I wish I could just buy a house with cash. That'd be fantastic. Yeah. So mortgages are kind of crazy like that, which a lot of people didn't know that. They think that they get 5 for 25 years and they have that same payment. It can work good or bad. You could be in for 5, and then the next 5 years it goes down to 3, and woohoo, the mortgage it gets cheaper, and you're like, yeah, I like this. This is right. Right now we're not living there though. Right now we're living in like expensive food and expensive mortgages.
Just did.
Just did. Welcome. Were you listening?
Well, I was listening, but I was like, we need to learn more stuff like this.
It used to be in the old curriculum, in the grade 11 curriculum. We used to, in the 20-2 actually, which was applied at the time, and the 30, we used to talk about it, mortgage rates and stuff like that, and we figure out payments and stuff, and what if we change the interest rate to a certain value, what would we change the payments?
But then it doesn't apply when you pull it cold, it just pays in cash.
Yeah, he's like, I just call it. That's how his whole test would be like, I just paid the cash. My payment is 0. I brought my suitcase. Yeah.
Actually, Phil,
Teach you how to buy taxes.
Taxes are easy because you have like nothing. So you just go on to H&R Block. Literally, you go on to H&R Block and you put in your taxes. And then off your one single T4, maybe 2, and call it a day. Then you have children or a job or like children, or you have investments and stuff like that. That's when your taxes get crazy. Yours, you can just go on H&R Block and you fill in the numbers and poof, it does your taxes for you. Cheap like Porsche, you know? All right. So here it says you invest $500 in an account paying 6% per annum. Guys, paying attention. This 6% per annum throws people off. They'll call me over, they're like, what's per annum? It's per year. It's fancy words that means per year. Like, why don't they say per year? Because they say per annum. Deal. That's what it is. So it's just per year. The interest rates are always per year. So we invest 500. What would that be? Guys, what letter would that be? Initial. In an account paying 6%, what's that? The little I, but what is it actually? From yesterday, guys. 0.06. Stop. So your interest rate is 0.06. And then it says compounding semi-annually. Well, let's figure out our compound periods. So, my CP, if it says annually, how many times a year is that? Once. So my CP would be 1. So it wouldn't change anything when I divide by 1 times by 1. Then I have semi-annually. How many times is that? CP is 2. It's every 6 months. Then I have quarterly. How many times is that a year? 4. And then I have monthly, which is 12. Okay, this one says semi-annually. So I know my CP is 2. And then write an equation to represent this investment. So if I don't have all the information, I'm just writing an equation. I'm not actually solving anything for this, right? So I would get final equals initial, which is 500, bracket 1 plus 0.06 divided by 2, and then n times 2. Now I'm not actually done my equation because I can simplify it a bit more. Do you see how this 2 isn't dividing the 1? I go 0.06 divided by 2. Now why do I do that? Because I'm trying to find out what the interest rate would be per compounding period. And if it compounds twice, that's 0.06 divided by 2, that's 3% for compounding period, which makes sense, right? Twice a year. So I would end up with F equals 500, and then 0.06 divided by 2 is 0.03 plus 1 is 1.03 to the 2n. So that's my equation. I box it because I'm proud of it. Now it wants you to estimate the value of the investment after 5 years. What did they give me now? N. So we have F equals 500, bracket 1.03, and then 2 times 5, which is really just 10. So everyone's typing it in. So we get $671.96. And remember, on a test we write sentences for all of these. So this would be the value of the investment after 5 years is $671.96. Guys, how much interest rate did they make? How much interest, not interest rate, how much interest did they make in those 5 years? $171.96. What did you do? He mathed. He subtracted. You subtracted what? Yeah. 671 minus the initial, so minus that 500, and they made 171. Now determine when you would expect your investment to double. So I originally had 500. What am I going to have for my final now? 1,000 equals 500. Bracket 1.03 to the 2n. What did I tell you to do always first? I'm going to put it down here because I'm going to do the math. What did I tell you to do first whenever you have your final and your initial always given to you? Divide over that initial, right? And we don't put any rounded decimals or anything like that. So I'm going to do 1/5. I think that's just 0.2. I think it is 0.2. Now I can write 0.2 or 1/5. What's that?
You said 1,000, but we're at 100.
It's 1,000. Oh no. Well, we're going to backtrack a bit here. So it'll be 2. It wouldn't have worked out eventually because my final would have been smaller than my initial and I was growing. All right. The variable is in the exponent. When the variable is in the exponent, what must I do? Convert to log. I thought I heard someone whisper that. That's what you have to do. So I get log base what? What's the base of my exponent? 1.03. And what's going to go beside it? A 2. And it equals 2n. How do I get n by itself? What math? Divide by 2. Everyone's typing it in to see if they can get the actual answer that I get. However they need to. So it would take 11.7 years to double. You try 2 and 3. So, it does smell like bacon right now. $7,000 is invested in a 6-year GIC, compounded quarterly, so I'm going to multiply by 4, and then divide by 4. And then it wants to know the value of the investment at what was that? Oh, I took 9 on the 1 plus 5. So make sure you set it up properly. So it's 9,431.46. Make sure, if this is on a test, that you do the written response with sentences at the end. Box my answer because I'm proud of it. Okay, 3. Find the interest rate. So this one's making us find I. 1 decimal place at which a $3,000 investment doubles. So I get 6,000. Don't know why I wrote that so close to the 3. Compounded quarterly. So I'm going to go 1 plus I divided by 0.04. That is not true. Divided by 4. And then 5 years, so 5 times 4. So, take your own advice. Divide by 3,000, and 2 equals 1 plus I divided by 4 to the 20. And then I want to take the 20th root. So I put a 20th root, and I get the 20th root of 2 equals 1 plus I divided by 4. What do I have to move next? What do I have to move next? Subtract 1 and then multiply by 4. So we're going to subtract 1, and then we're going to multiply the whole thing by 4. So we get I equals, technically if you want to see what it looks like, it's the 20th root of 2 minus 1. So every person should be trying to fill that in, see if you get the same answer as me. So 20th root of 2 minus 1 times 4. And I get 0.14105, which is 14.1%.